Hey guys, Unit 4 technology implementation assignment I thought was quite interesting, and I want to say I had an epiphany. It's a little exaggerated, but I really learned a lot from my initial take on this assignment to the end, from the beginning to the end. So first of all, my first honest thoughts were podcasts. I don't know. I'm not into the audio. I like the audio visual. I like the kids to have something to view and for me to have control over what they're seeing, as well as what they're hearing. And I talked to some students about it. And one of the things they told me that really changed my opinion of it initially, and then even changed it more once I started doing them this past week, and did a couple over spring break as well, was that one kid gave me a great analogy. He said the audio of a podcast is very much like reading a book. So when you're listening to it, you're coming up with the visuals. You're coming up in your own head with the graphs or the data or the for my class, anatomy and physiology, they're coming up with the view of it on their own because they're only getting the audio. And I thought that was really cool. Like reading a book, you're coming up with it as opposed to actually watching the movie. The example the kid gave was Hunger Games. Like watching the movie versus reading the book. Podcast is reading the book because you're having to visualize what's going on. And in the podcasts that I've given them for anatomy and physiology, such a visual class, it's great. It was great because the kids told me that they were visualizing what was happening in the human body, and they were visualizing what was happening on the graphs of hormones and things like that we were going over. So in my review of these, as I started doing them, that made a lot more sense, even more sense than when the students initially shared that with me. So I have, let me go with my first one, the one I like the most, which is right here. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Vocaroo. But going to it, this was the easiest to use. I think someone who loves technology and is much more advanced in technology than I am would probably hate or not like this one very much at all. Vocaroo was so simple, though. It was as simple as me clicking record, and I could, allow, and I could talk about anatomy and physiology. The menstrual cycle is what we're currently going over. So I could talk about the hormones and what they did, and created a whole podcast through Vocaroo. And then as soon as I was done with my podcast, with my discussion, with my lecture, I could click stop, and I felt this was great. Happy with the recording, with this recording right here. I can click here to save, and I thought this was really cool. It came up with a website that I could, Control C, highlight, and copy, and put that into my learning management system that the district provided our students, and have the kids access it from there. One of the advantages to doing that, I think, in my humble opinion, was that the kids, all these teachers are trying to use all this different technology, and it can be a hassle in a sense that, oh, hey, go to Podomatic, hey, go to this site, that site for my class, and they're thinking which teacher uses which site and when do they use it. And so for me, I really like using the learning management system our district provided because it's consistent with what the students are using for all their other classes. If it has a feature that I want to use and it doesn't have that feature, then yeah, I would use some other site for that or some other management system. But I really liked Vocaroo because it was so simple, just recording. And I'm not into the editing because if I make a mistake, if I say too much, it's that's me. That's me from class. So they're hearing the real thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I think a lot of times those nuances, bring me to the kids and the rapport I have with my students. So I think I really like the website. Adding the link here, and you can email it to a kid and do a quick one that never apps or whatever, and they email you. I could sit down, hit record, make one, and email just that kid this. Possibly post it if it's an excellent one, but if not, it may be just, hey, this is what we did in class. So I think that's kind of cool. A great way to use audio to communicate to the kids. And one kid said, I don't remember the wording he used, but he said that it kind of allows them to take ownership of it because they are the ones visualizing what the podcast is about, and applying the audio to what they visualize. So I thought that was really cool. But this was my favorite. I don't want to say by far, but because it's so elementary, but it's so simple and easy to use. It didn't require a learning curve, which was great. When I want to delete that link, I can just click delete now and it's gone. So very simple, very great. I thought that Poderator, when I got there, I signed up. I got my profile going. I started a podcast with the menstrual cycle hormones right here. And it just, I don't know if it wasn't aesthetically pleasing for me or what. I just felt like it was work filling out a form kind of. I don't know. And it didn't seem like something I wanted to spend that much time filling out for something that I could, the stuff that I needed to fill out seemed kind of useless to me. So Poderator was my least favorite of all the ones I went through. It's not, my tab's not open for it, but I had Audacity as well. I thought that was really cool in the editing, and that would be something I would use later as I got more into podcasts and maybe had some units of my course that had longer podcasts. Most of mine are shorter, 1.5 minute, 3-minute bursts of information. But if I were to make a series, I really like the editing in Audacity and how you could edit it and in that sense, and you could line up several different podcasts in one listening session. I thought that was really cool. So, but yeah, Poderator, not my favorite. Vocaroo, my favorite by a bit. These two, this was Podbean and of course Podomatic. I thought these were very similar. You could see here. Let me scroll down for you. You select media, so you go to add files, and you can click on the thing, open it. I did the menstrual cycle hormones here, so I have one there, enter a description, image, so on and so forth. So I thought that was great. I like that you can use stats on how frequently it's been accessed, and same thing here on Podbean. But on Podbean, I thought some of the statistics options were a little bit a lot cooler. But we have all this with our learning management system. So for right now, I would say I would choose the learning management system over that. And I suppose I could use my voice recorder for podcasts for that as well and post them as files. But I really like the link because then it's much easier to delete those, embed those email, share through Google, social media, so on and so forth. So I learned a lot through this. It was really interesting because my initial, of course, perspective on podcast was why would I want to do that without the video, without the visual aspect of it, PowerPoint or stop and play. And I think both have their place. And that's one of the biggest things I learned here is that I don't always have to have the graph in front of them or the diagram in front of them and discuss it. That having just a podcast that they can listen to on their ride home or while they do their chores or while they're on their bus. I have a lot of kids that do extracurricular activities and they're riding a bus, somewhere really far away, maybe an hour trip or whatever for a game. They can listen to their podcast, but still see what's going on in the bus and not feel like they're not paying attention to the podcast. So it opens up a lot of options. I thought, of course, the Hunger Games analogy with the book, I thought that really made podcasts, made this unit make sense to me. That to hear that the kids are having to visualize the information on their own and consequently take much more ownership in the information from podcasts, more so than I have the diagram there for them and they're just kind of looking at it, memorizing it. There's not a lot of ownership in that. I, of course, will still do that because a lot of the complicated advanced anatomy and physiology things need explaining with that, but the audio is a great tool as well. I think they both work well together is the bottom line. So I learned a lot from that. Not just on how to do it and how they're stored in banks and all that, but I also learned the benefits of less is more. Without the visual, just the audio, that less is more. And I thought that was the biggest thing I learned from this, but also the storage and all that and how files can be reaccessed and deleted and all that. But for this particular assignment, I'm going with the simplest, like Occam's razor, the science concept. The simplest solution is the best one for me on this one. So Vocaroo is my pick, and I enjoyed it. Thank you.